Imagine waking up in a country where a house costs less than your phone, where entire neighborhoods sell for the price of a vacation, and where the American dream hasn't disappeared. It just moved somewhere nobody's looking. These aren't scam listings or abandoned movie sets. They're real US towns with real people, real histories, and real reasons why home prices have collapsed into numbers that don't feel possible in 2025. Some are rebuilding, some are fading, some feel haunted, and some feel reborn. But all of them share one thing: affordability so shocking it almost feels illegal. Number 10. Muncie, Indiana. Muncie, Indiana is one of those towns that feels like it slipped through a crack in the American economy. A place where you can still buy a real house, a full-size, porch and yard, actual deed-in-your-hand house for the price of a used gaming laptop. It doesn't feel real until you see the listings yourself. Homes in certain neighborhoods routinely show up under $40,000, some even dipping into the $20,000 to $30,000 range. Not fixer-upper sheds, actual structures with roofs that don't need therapy. And here's the twist: people live here, study here, work here, and the town hasn't fallen into zombie mode. It's just a place where the math of America broke in a strangely convenient way. Muncie is the definition of Midwest contradiction. Quiet streets, good old brick homes, and a housing market that looks like it forgot what decade it's in. The area has a cost of living nearly 20% below the national average, and that alone explains why people on Reddit call it one of the last towns where a normal paycheck actually feels like money. Ball State University keeps the town young, artsy, and a little weird in the best possible way. You've got cafes that look like Pinterest boards, students hauling film equipment downtown, and thrift shops that could bankroll an entire vintage TikTok aesthetic. But it comes with its trade-offs. The median household income floats around the mid-$40,000, so wages run low compared to the rest of the country. Manufacturing jobs that once fed the area are long gone, and the scars are everywhere if you know where to look. Boarded storefronts on side streets, an economy that still doesn't know what to be when it grows up, and neighborhoods divided sharply by investment and neglect. Crime exists, especially in pockets that haven't seen serious redevelopment in decades, and you'll definitely want to learn which blocks locals avoid after dark. Still, something is happening in Muncie. Small developers nibble at abandoned buildings. Ball State grads stick around long enough to build micro-businesses. Independent bars, barbershops, auto detail garages, and tattoo studios quietly keep the city's pulse alive. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And for people priced out of normal America, Muncie offers something you can't fake: stability you can actually afford, a chance to breathe, a chance to start over without signing your soul away to a 30-year mortgage, a place where you don't need to be rich just to exist. Number 9. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is the only major US city where you can buy a house for less than a year of Starbucks, and somehow it's not a glitch, not a typo, not a hallucination. It's just Detroit being Detroit. A city that rose, crashed, burned, rebuilt, collapsed again, and is now stuck in this surreal limbo where home prices in some neighborhoods still sit under $15,000 to $20,000. Entire blocks stand half lived in, half forgotten, like America paused mid-sentence and never finished the thought. Yet at the same time, towers downtown are filling up, tech companies are moving in, and Ford is literally rehabbing entire districts. It's a place where both futures exist at once: the comeback story and the cautionary tale. Detroit's cost of living sits about 9% below the national average, making it one of the most affordable big cities left in America. But affordability comes with its own set of realities. The violent crime rate hovers around 5 times above the US average, concentrated in specific pockets that haven't recovered from decades of population loss and disinvestment. Infrastructure is a mixed bag. Some areas look freshly rebuilt. Others feel like the moon: potholes, cracked sidewalks, and water mains older than the grandparents who remember Motown's glory days. Still, the energy is undeniable. Young entrepreneurs are opening coffee shops in old auto garages. Developers are turning abandoned schools into lofts. Artists paint murals on buildings that haven't seen a fresh coat of paint in 40 years. Detroit has this raw, gritty electricity, the kind of place where you either fall in love with the potential or swear you'll never return. Rent is surprisingly high given the home prices, averaging around $1,200, and that alone is pushing people to buy instead of lease. A weird paradox: you can own a home cheaper than you can rent one, but you have to be ready for the maintenance, the neighborhood unpredictability, and the occasional mailbox theft. Locals joke that Detroit doesn't surprise you, it tests you. But the truth is simpler. Detroit doesn't hide what it is. It puts the whole messy, beautiful, broken reality right in front of you and asks whether you're up for it. And for thousands of newcomers each year, the answer is yes. Because in a country where affordability has evaporated, Detroit is still one of the last big city bargains left standing. Number 8. Flint, Michigan. Flint is a place where the house is often cheaper than the car sitting in its driveway, sometimes dramatically cheaper. Median home prices hover in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, and smaller, older homes can still be found for under $25,000. It sounds like a trap, but it's not. It's the economic hangover of a city that once boomed with auto manufacturing, then got gutted, then got hit with a water crisis that made global headlines. Flint isn't just affordable, it's practically a case study in what happens when a town loses billions in economic activity overnight. The cost of living sits over 20% lower than the national average, and rent is shockingly cheap, often in the $700 to $850 range. But the affordability comes with context. The violent crime rate is around 4 times the US average, though it varies sharply block by block. Some neighborhoods feel like tight-knit communities where everyone knows your dog's name. Others feel like ghost maps, empty lots, boarded windows, grass reclaiming land nobody's maintained in years. Yet Flint keeps moving. The University of Michigan's Flint campus adds thousands of students to the local economy. Healthcare facilities and small logistics companies are slowly filling the void left by manufacturing. Redevelopment projects, cafes, marketplaces, co-working spaces pop up like cautious bets on the city's long-term potential. Even the water infrastructure, once the city's darkest chapter, has been undergoing major replacement efforts. Flint has personality: loud summer nights filled with fireworks, neighborhood barbecues where the smoke tells you what's cooking before the host does, local diners with prices that look like they forgot to adjust for inflation, people who survive everything and still show up to rebuild again. For buyers, Flint is a gamble with unusually low stakes. A home you can literally pay off in months, not decades, but it takes resilience. Some streets are rough, services are inconsistent, and you need to be comfortable with a town that's still repairing trust in its government, its infrastructure, and its future. If you can handle all that, Flint offers something rare: the ability to own a home outright without drowning in debt. Number 7. McAllen, Texas. McAllen is one of the cheapest cities in the country, not just cheap for Texas, but cheap on a national scale. It's a place where the median home price floats around $200,000, but older homes in certain neighborhoods regularly drop into the $60,000 to $90,000 range, and distressed properties can dip below $50,000. That's almost unheard of for a city with an international airport, major hospitals, university campuses, and a retail scene so big, people cross the border just to shop. The cost of living sits around 20% below the national average, and rent consistently hovers under $900 for many units. But McAllen's affordability comes packaged with its own set of contradictions. It's one of the fastest-growing metro areas in Texas, yet one of the lowest income regions in the entire country. The median household income hangs in the low $50,000, creating a strange economic split. A town that's booming in population but still struggling with wages that haven't kept up with the rest of Texas. McAllen's vibe is unique. Part suburban, part border town energy, part Latin American cultural hub. Palm trees, giant shopping centers, taco trucks on every corner, and festivals that fill entire streets. But summers are brutal, not hot, brutal. 100+ degrees for weeks. And the mosquitoes? Organized, determined, possibly unionized. The city feels safe compared to its affordability level, with crime rates much lower than places like Detroit or Jackson. Schools vary, neighborhoods vary, and the entire region is tied culturally and economically to cross-border trade. That means McAllen is always in some national conversation. Immigration debates, border security policies, economic agreements, whether locals want it or not. The upside? Stable job sectors in healthcare, logistics, and education. Retail jobs everywhere. New developments popping up constantly. a culture so rich you can taste it in the food. The downside? Wages, heat, and the occasional political storm louder than the real ones. For someone priced out of the rest of America, McAllen offers a surprisingly modern, shockingly affordable, and deeply human alternative. A place where your paycheck still matters, and where buying a house doesn't feel like signing a lifelong debt sentence. Number 6. Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City is the kind of place where you can buy a home for under $50,000 in the very same metro where million-dollar condos overlook freshly built entertainment districts. It doesn't feel like one city. It feels like two realities glued together with barbecue sauce and jazz history. In zip codes east of Troost Avenue, homes routinely list in the $35,000 to $45,000 range, some even below $30,000 if they need work. Meanwhile, 10 minutes away, people are paying more in monthly rent than what a mortgage would cost on an entire KC block. The cost of living sits roughly 20% below the national average, and groceries, utilities, and services tend to run cheaper than most large metros. But KC's affordability comes with its own flavor of turbulence. The violent crime rate hovers around 1,700 per 100,000, making it one of the highest in the Midwest. Though locals will tell you it's highly concentrated in specific corridors that haven't seen meaningful investment in decades. One street feels like suburban calm. The next feels like a forgotten map layer from the 1970s. The weird part? Kansas City is booming. Billions in development. A thriving tech startup scene. Sports culture that borders on religious. Huge arenas, expanding hospitals, a performing arts center that looks like it was dropped from the future. Coffee shops, record stores, food halls, breweries, all thriving. It's a renaissance, just not evenly distributed. Rent averages around $1,100, pushing many first-time buyers to consider neighborhoods they never imagined themselves in. But living in the cheapest pockets of KC is not a passive experience. You'll mow your lawn next to abandoned houses that developers might buy next year, or might ignore for another decade. Stray cats form alliances, raccoons negotiate terms, streetlights take days off without notice. Still, KC has a heartbeat people fall in love with. Barbecue joints that make grown adults emotional. Jazz bars where a $7 drink comes with a live sax solo. Neighbors who actually wave back. A kind of raw, unpolished potential that feels rare in 2025. In a country where home ownership is slipping out of reach, Kansas City remains one of the last places where average people can still plant roots. Flaws, quirks, contradictions, and all. Number 5. Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson is one of the most misunderstood cities in America. A place where you can find a house for $30,000 to $50,000, and where entire blocks look like they were priced during a different century. But Jackson's affordability isn't a glitch, it's a symptom. Decades of population decline, infrastructure issues, and struggling public services have pushed home values down to levels that look unbelievable on paper but painfully real to people living there. The cost of living sits over 15% below the US average, and rent often falls between $800 to $1,000 depending on neighborhood. And despite the low home prices, Jackson's challenges are hard to ignore. Crime rates sit far above the national average, and the citywide water infrastructure problems became national news for a reason. Some neighborhoods experience outages, low pressure, or boil water alerts that make daily life feel unpredictable. And yet, Jackson has soul. A cultural identity so strong that even its hardest seasons didn't erase it. The birthplace of blues and civil rights giants. Museums, food culture, festivals, writers, painters, musicians. Jackson's creativity is louder than its problems. Drive through Fondren and you'll find murals, indie coffee shops, bookstores, and galleries that look like pieces of Austin or Nashville teleported into Mississippi. The strange thing about Jackson is that people don't move here for convenience. They move for affordability, family, culture, faith, and surprisingly strong pockets of community. Universities like Jackson State create a steady flow of students. Hospitals and government agencies keep the job market alive. And suburban spillover from Madison and Rankin counties brings slow but steady investment pressure. Buying a cheap house in Jackson is both opportunity and responsibility. You get insane affordability, but you also inherit the city's unpredictability. Aging pipes, uneven services, and neighborhoods that can change drastically from one block to the next. But in an America where housing feels rigged against the average person, Jackson stands out as one of the last major cities where ordinary buyers can still own something real. Imperfect, yes. Undeniably affordable, absolutely. Number 4, Pere, Cheney, Michigan. Pere, Cheney isn't just cheap. It's practically a myth. A former lumber town turned ghost map where land sells for under $1,000 an acre and where the neighborhood consists of forests, old foundations, and one of the eeriest abandoned cemeteries in the Midwest. Homes? None left. Rental market? Non-existent. Population? 0. But people still buy land here, and that's where the story gets strange. The town boomed in the late 1800s, then collapsed after a brutal combination of fires, economic fallout, and a diphtheria outbreak that wiped out much of the population. Locals blame bad luck. Folklore blames a curse. Either way, the town emptied, and nature took over. Today, it's basically a clearing in the woods, a cemetery, and stories that live longer than the buildings ever did. Affordability doesn't get better than this. No taxes you can't manage, no utilities unless you build them yourself, no noise unless you count wind. But living near Pere, Cheney comes with trade-offs you won't find on Zillow. No cell service in large areas, wildlife everywhere, roads that turn to mud the moment it rains. Not to mention the paranormal tourism, ghost hunters, YouTubers, amateur explorers wandering the woods at night. People who buy land here usually fall into 3 categories: off-grid dreamers, paranormal enthusiasts, or hunters who just want cheap acreage. But the isolation is real. The nearest full-service town is a drive away. Emergencies rely on whoever can reach you fastest. Winters are brutal. And the vibe? Quiet in a way that makes your ears ring. Still, Pere, Cheney has an allure. Cheap land, untouched nature, and a strange, magnetic silence that feels like stepping out of time. It's not for everyone, maybe not for most people, but in a world where small towns are being swallowed by big money and big developers, places like Pere, Cheney are almost impossible to find anymore. A town erased, but still somehow alive in the stories people tell. Number 3, Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown is what happens when a city loses its entire economic engine, and then slowly, painfully, tries to reinvent itself while everything around it collapses in slow motion. This is one of the only places in America where you can still find homes for $25,000 to $40,000, and in certain distressed pockets, properties fall under $20,000 without anyone blinking. It's the closest thing the US has to a real-life economic glitch, a metro area with highways, museums, universities, malls, and home prices that look like they were frozen in 1983. Decades ago, Youngstown was steel paychecks, steel pride, steel communities. Then the mills shut down, tens of thousands of jobs evaporated, and the city never fully recovered. The population collapsed from nearly 170,000 to under 60,000, leaving behind entire neighborhoods of beautiful old homes and no one left to fill them. Vacancy spread, crime followed, and the city became a national symbol of Rust Belt decline. The cost of living now sits over 20% below the US average. Rent is low, often $700 to $900 depending on the street. But the economic reality is mixed. Unemployment tends to run higher than national averages. Wages run low. Some streets are quiet and stable. Others look like nature is slowly repossessing the land. Trees growing through porches, grass reclaiming sidewalks, and windows boarded like time never restarted. But Youngstown isn't dead. The downtown area has been getting slow, steady revival tools, restaurants, coffee shops, loft conversions, and a growing art scene. Youngstown State University brings students and life back into the city. Logistics hubs, healthcare systems, and distribution centers help anchor new jobs. And small developers have begun quietly buying up abandoned blocks, betting on the long, slow rebuild. Living here is a test of patience and perspective. You get insanely cheap real estate, but you also inherit the challenges of a city still trying to figure out what it becomes next. Blocks can change drastically within minutes. Some neighborhoods feel like the 1950s, others feel like urban archaeology. But if you want ownership without debt, space without stress, and a chance to be part of a city rebuilding from the bones up, Youngstown is one of the last US cities offering that opportunity at this scale. Number 2. Govan, Washington. Govan is one of the strangest real estate stories in America. A semi-abandoned ghost town where land sells for under $5,000 a parcel, where houses have collapsed, barns lean sideways, the old schoolhouse stares at you like a horror movie set, and the population barely reaches 3 people, pets included. This isn't just cheap. This is buy an entire town for the price of a couch cheap. Govan once served the railway and wheat farms of eastern Washington. It was small, dusty, quiet, until a series of tragedies turned it into folklore. In the early 1900s, the town judge and his wife were found murdered with an axe, a case still unsolved. Decades later, more deaths followed on nearby farms. As agriculture modernized, people left, buildings decayed, and Govan turned into a postcard of abandonment. Except the postcard has no stamp because the post office doesn't exist anymore. Today, Govan sits off lonely roads surrounded by wheat fields and silence. No services, no police, no streetlights. No running businesses. If you buy here, you bring everything: water tanks, power solutions, supplies, and the mental toughness to handle nighttime winds that sound like someone walking on gravel. The cost of living? Basically whatever it costs to survive off-grid. Property tax is pocket change. Housing inventory is whatever hasn't collapsed yet. Crime rate is technically 0, mostly because there's no one left to file a report. Yet some people come. Artists wanting eerie landscapes, retirees looking for absolute quiet, paranormal fans who want to claim to the haunted schoolhouse before influencers get there, and occasionally off-grid adventurers who look at a $5,000 plot and say, why not? But isolation is real. You're 40 minutes from groceries, cell service is spotty, winters cut deep, and the silence? It's not peaceful, it's the kind that reminds you the nearest neighbor might be a quarter-mile away, or the schoolhouse door creaking in the wind behind you. If you want cheap land and total solitude, Govan delivers. But it asks you to live with its history, its emptiness, and its long, unsettling quiet. Number 1. Greenville, Mississippi. Greenville is one of the last places in America where you can buy a full-sized house with a yard, a porch, and actual space to breathe for the price of a used jet ski. Homes regularly fall in the $60,000 to $90,000 range, and distressed properties can dip under $50,000, making it one of the most affordable towns in the entire Deep South. But Greenville isn't cheap because it's forgotten. It's cheap because it's complicated. Sitting right in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, Greenville carries a history that's heavier than its housing prices suggest. This is the birthplace of blues legends, where music poured out of juke joints long before Spotify playlists existed. It's also a region shaped by economic hit after economic hit. Declining agriculture jobs, natural disasters, and decades of underinvestment that left scars on infrastructure and neighborhoods. The cost of living here sits about 30% below the national average. Rent averages around $650 to $800 depending on the block. But affordability comes with real trade-offs. Greenville's violent crime rate is far above U.S. averages, concentrated in specific areas that locals will warn you about instantly. Job opportunities exist: casinos, agriculture, manufacturing, and healthcare, but wages run low, and the job market doesn't offer the stability of larger southern cities. Still, Greenville has a pulse that's uniquely its own. Drive through the historic district and you'll see charming southern homes with wide porches perfect for iced tea and long conversations. Visit on a weekend and you'll find festivals, catfish cook-offs, riverfront events, outdoor concerts, and people who tell stories like they're passing down folklore. Greenville's culture is thick: music, food, faith, and family all woven into the town's DNA. But living here means embracing the quirks. Summers are blistering. Mosquitoes aren't insects, they're tiny military aircraft. Streets flood quickly during heavy rain. Some blocks feel peaceful and lived in, others feel abandoned, quiet, and waiting for someone with vision and patience. That's the contradiction. Greenville can offer you a cheap mortgage and a porch with a sunset view, but it also asks you to face the very real challenges of a town trying to hold on while the world around it changes. Yet, for many people, retirees, remote workers, first-time buyers, families desperate to escape big city housing traps, Greenville is a chance to own something real without drowning in debt. A city with flaws, yes, but also with soul. A place where neighbors still wave, strangers still talk, and a normal person can still afford a piece of America without sacrificing their entire future to a 30-year mortgage.